Welcome to Book Critiques with Cait. I'm your host, Caitlin. In today's show, I'm going to cover the book Looking for Alaska by John Green. I'll begin with a brief overview of the most prominent characters and give a shortened version of the book's plot. Don't worry, I'll try to leave out spoilers. I will add in my personal opinion on the overall book and what impression the characters left on me as I go along through this episode. Finally, I will move on to my last topic and discuss whether the character of Alaska Young could be considered a symbolic character. To begin, I'm going to quote directly from John Green's website and give a general summary of the book's plot. Miles Halter is fascinated by famous last words and tired of his safe life at home. He leaves for boarding school to seek what the dying poet Francois Rabelais called the Great Perhaps. Much awaits Miles at Culver Creek, including Alaska Young, clever, young, screwed up, and dead sexy. Alaska will pull Miles into her labyrinth and catapult him into the Great Perhaps. For some who haven't read the novel, Culver Creek is a southern boarding school where Miles begins his junior year of high school. He meets his three friends, Alaska, the Colonel, and Takumi. Together, they get in all kinds of trouble pulling pranks on the weekday warriors. I personally thought all of the characters were really dynamic and they complemented each other. Each of the main characters contradicted the stereotype that they were kind of written in, and the reader's not going to place them in the typical category that you might if you're a seasoned reader. When they're first introduced, I was actually really surprised by the character of Alaska Young. When I was first introduced to her, I thought that she was this extremely smart bookworm who seemed a little bit eccentric and not your typical quiet person. But as the novel progressed, the trauma that Alaska experienced when she was younger really started to become part of her characterization that you find as you read through the book. Now, to go into a little bit more of the plot, Miles starts school. He immediately is introduced to the Colonel, who's his roommate, and this is not at all what he expected to find going to a southern boarding school. He thought that it would be, fun beaches and a little bit of homework, and instead he found his greatest friends and maybe picked up the habit of smoking, but you'll have to read to find out more on that. The question that I pose is, could Alaska Young be considered a symbolic character? According to literaryterms.net, symbolic characters are often characters, settings, images, or other motifs that stand in for bigger ideas. Authors often use symbols or symbolism to give their work with more meaning and to make a story be about more than just the events it describes. Now, I really think that Alaska is a symbolic character because her actions through the novel are what helps Miles, the main character of the novel, get closure about trying to seek his own great perhaps. And there's a lot of vague terms that you as a reader get to figure out what they mean in your own life as you go through the book. And Looking for Alaska is a little bit different because the character of Alaska is not shown through the entire novel. She drops out about halfway through. How she does, you'll have to read to find out, but her presence is still really felt throughout the entire novel. So, to go into more detail about this symbolic character, because she is not the typical bookworm person that you find, she's wild and she's crazy, she doesn't make good decisions, I think that she's really symbolic of the chaos that Miles was missing in his old life. He just went to school, he didn't have very many friends, and going to Culver Creek, that gave him the friends he needed. They put him into situations that made him uncomfortable, and Alaska was the figurehead of a lot of it. So, to wrap everything up, I think that Looking for Alaska is a great novel with well-written characters. Without revealing the entire ending of the novel, I think that Alaska is a symbolic character, and her presence causes so much to change in the main character of Miles, even when she's not shown anymore. Thank you for tuning in this week. If you liked this content, please like and share this video, and remember to come back next week with my next video. And remember to subscribe to NWTV7 for future episodes. Have a good day, everyone.